Welcome to the Deeper Into Movies podcast. My name is Stephen T. Hanley. I'm the founder and lead curator of Deeper Into Movies. We are a pop-up cinema based in London and New York. Today on the podcast, I am super stoked. We finally have John Wilson on the pod. I've been trying to get him on the pod for the first 2 seasons of his show. Everyone's been DMing me, telling me to get him. I've been trying, goddammit, and it finally paid off. And we've got him just before the final episode of How To of John Wilson Season 3. He's wrapping up the show, and this is a great time to talk about the show as a whole, looking back, and it just feels more monumental, which is a vibe. If you haven't seen How To with John Wilson, I urge you to. The first 2 series are on BBC, or if you're in the States, HBO. And each episode, John poses a question or goes on a quest. And it's always something really small and interesting. How to make small talk, how to improve your memory, how to split the check. There's an incredible episode in the new series about using public bathrooms. It's just fantastic. And he's such an odd and unique character. The show is really hard to explain. Just watch an episode and within 5 minutes, you're probably going to fall in love with it. John is also here to talk about the new documentary he's produced called Carpet Cowboys, which is about the carpet industry in America. It's a very John Wilson subject. That documentary is also excellent. And that's it. Let's just jump into it. This is me with the great documentarian John Wilson. Hey, how are you?
Hey, good. What's up?
I'm good. Good background.
So I have a better mic if that works.
If it's easy to plug in, go ahead. But if not,
yeah, it's already plugged in.
Great.
Okay.
Oh, way better.
Okay, cool.
Are
the levels okay?
You're a little quiet. If you can crank it up a little bit.
The mixer I have is like...
There you go. I think it was just direction.
Oh, okay. Let's try to stay close to it.
Okay. Let's start at the beginning. What kind of teenager were you? What did you grow up watching? What kind of movies and documentaries had a big hit on you?
When I was growing up, I feel like I watched a lot of what other people watched. But I would get into just different filmmakers like, Terry Gilliam and like Herzog and stuff like that. And I would just kind of go through their filmographies and, just studied what I felt like I should study. But I didn't really get into nonfiction as much until college, when I realized that was a much more sustainable way to make low budget pictures, because everything looks the way that it's supposed to look, even if you're doing it for no money,
Yeah, you're just documenting reality, so there's no set design, so to speak, or anything like that.
And you don't got to ask any favors of anyone, really. You can kind of just be a one-man band.
What were the documentaries that you started discovering?
Well, I think that there was... I got into... it was a bit of an experimental film program at in SUNY Binghamton. Um, so there were a couple of documentaries like Metal and Melancholy was a nice one I remember. It was kind of all about cab drivers. And then I also just kind of got into a lot of George Kuchar stuff. Um, and he's got a big filmography, but the stuff that really spoke to me was his kind of video diary films. And there's also the Jonas Mekas stuff, like that he did, and also I'm trying to think of what else. Like David Holzman's diary was like a really big one for me.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it was just such a cool portrait of this guy's little corner of the city, and I didn't really I only after that did I realize what the potential for kind of personal essay films could be in stuff like what's it called, the Sherman's March. I feel like a lot of people watch.
Yeah.
So stuff like that.
Holzman's diary was great. I only discovered it a couple of years ago when Joe Swanberg recommended it to me.
Oh yeah,
it hadn't been on my radar before that.
Yeah, one of my favorite parts of Holzman's diary is when he's just showing you, one frame every 30 seconds or something of the TV broadcast, and just kind of talking over it. I thought that was just such a cool bit of visual material to narrate over, and a nice time capsule, and I feel like that's stuff like that is always good to kind of anchor your work in a very specific time without being too obnoxious about it.
Did you go to film school?
Yeah. I did. I spent 4 years at the cinema program at SUNY Binghamton. It was a small kind of experimental film program, and it was started by Ken Jacobs, and I just really it had a way of making me think a lot deeper about what I was doing. Otherwise, I think I would have tried to make more kind of narrative comedic stuff, and I'm really glad that the program beat that out of me.
What's the movie you make that it's in season 2? I'm blanking on the name. You have the DVD that you put in a safe. Was that during your time there?
Yeah, that movie was called Jingleberry.
Yes.
I think that was one of the last attempts of mine to make a something a bit more narrative, but I think that was conceived of like around sophomore year of high school, and it just kind of extended into the freshman year of college is when we were finishing it. So that was a disaster, but also had a way of kind of I then realized that I didn't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, we program films now, and people always ask me, do I make films? And I've got 3 from university on mini DV tapes, which I kind of never want to watch ever again, or even go back to. I don't know.
Yeah, it's I think the only thing I can stomach from my early college era is this short documentary I made about balloon fetishists that I still really like, which I'm screening at Anthology currently as part of this larger program.
Our one documentary, we tried to experiment with my friend going 72 hours without sleep, and weirdly, we quickly kind of realized during the thing he was a really strange guy and super he had a certain way of thinking about things. He was an editor, so he was very matter of fact about things and very precise. And he was basically unwavered for the whole 72 hours. We were taking like 24-hour shifts filming him and slowly going insane and having to wake up at like 3 a.m. and charge the batteries and get going again. And he was completely unfazed with the whole thing. So it was almost like it was rigged. He was just like too strong-minded to even be affected, and we were trying to provoke him or like give us some content or some juicy scenes, for God's sake. We're going crazy, and he just kept it together for the whole shoot. So so when you left uni, when did you start gaining work? Were you shooting? Were you working 9 to 5s or?
Right after I graduated from college, I ended up moving to Cambridge in Massachusetts and living with a high school friend of mine, this guy Chris Maggio, that I would co-direct movies with, and we made little things here and there, but I mean, one of my first jobs was working for a private investigator, just editing their video content. I would have to travel for 90 minutes, each way down to this, like on the commuter rail, down to this little, like suburban town in Massachusetts called Hanson. And I would just go in there and I would look at all of the footage that the private investigator shot, and then I would trim it down to the most incriminating moments. So I kind of developed an eye for stuff like that. But I was also working as a school portrait photographer. So I would drive my car all around Massachusetts and photograph, middle school and high school kids, just on their photo day. So I was that clown that held up little toys and stuff and tried to get kids to smile. And that was really strange. So yeah, a lot of really odd jobs, but I didn't really want to get too deep into the actual film industry because I didn't want to have to work my way up from like on like the kind of the normal ladder, I guess.
Sure. Yeah.
Just because I could just see people getting trapped within the system, like at a very specific kind of level, whatever they specialized in, they would kind of sometimes stick there for a while. Not saying that people don't move beyond that, but I just didn't want to get trapped in there. I wanted to just do a bunch of other random stuff and just develop my own technique in the background.
What kind of shit were you seeing on private investigator tapes? It feels almost like a John Wilson film noir waiting to happen, or was it really?
Yeah, it was pretty dry.
Stuff? Oh man.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, like bone dry. It was a lot of. It wasn't very salacious. It was a lot of insurance fraud stuff. So it would be people kind of in a wheelchair, but then they get up and play tennis or something,
right.
And then get back in the wheelchair, and that's pretty much it. But I would just have to kind of watch them do this really banal stuff just for days and days on end, and it kind of radicalized me in one way or another, because I just really liked watching people from a certain distance. Because even the most boring stuff, there were these interesting little moments that I would then kind of collect myself and just have my own little archive of interesting images or kind of poetic little moments, and just show them to my friends. I didn't really do anything with it. But they also had a bunch of cool spy cameras that they had a bunch of spy cameras, and they would break sometimes, and when they threw them out, I would just kind of take them and tinker with them and use them for my own stuff, just around the city, just experimenting.
That's so cool. So it was kind of a how-to origin there with the people watching.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. But I was also just I had a lot of downtime during that job waiting for new material to come in from the PIs. So I would just kind of I would watch as many movies as I
Hmm.
possibly could. And I felt like my education wasn't even close to being over with that stuff. So there was a lot of stuff going on there.
That kind of reminds me of when Eric Wareheim told me that he used to be a wedding videographer,
Yeah.
and I always want to see those tapes. I was just imagining him like zooming really deeply into people's faces while they're eating or awkward wedding dances and stuff. I really imagine that the
Yeah,
Tim and Eric vision of a wedding or something like.
it's an interesting thing that like happens, like, because I was also, filming like infomercials for a while, like really kind of bottom of the barrel stuff. And you're kind of you're given this direction from your boss, and you're forced to shoot everything a very specific way. And you know it just kind of it makes you feel kind of paralyzed in a way, because you want to do all this other crazy stuff with the material.
Yeah.
You want to shoot it like in your own way, but you're not allowed to. So I think that then, like, that then like begins to affect the way that your own stuff looks. And I could see, yeah, I could see Eric like, yeah, it kind of like turning his personal work into something a bit more extreme.
I guess if you're just seeing the world that way, you just can't help it. But I suppose that's why.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely had a few, when I would try to do freelance stuff, just miscellaneous freelance stuff through my 20s. My sometimes my clients would get really upset when I tried to shoot things in a way that I liked, like with, all handheld and kind of shaky stuff. And they would look at a cut and refuse to pay me or something like that. So I it's funny how subjective that kind of stuff is.
There's a really funny note at the beginning of Temporary Color where you show that email from your boss saying, he says something like, "You refuse to work in the perimeters of the shoot, and we're not going to work with you again."
Yeah, I think that was the last time I worked within the fashion industry. Yeah, I think they obviously have a very specific kind of glossy, sexy way of shooting things, and I don't think they really took to my perspective. But yeah, I'm glad that happened.
How did the David Byrne doc come about? Because obviously there's a bigger documentary shoot happening within your documentary.
Yeah.
So I was wondering how you got the gig and fit into that mix.
So Bill and Turner Ross are actually old friends of mine. And they were the ones that were making the other doc in that short that I made. So, I kind of,
are they the Bloody Nose guys?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I've seen their work. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Their stuff is great. But yeah, we've known each other for a while, and they actually personally asked me to tag along, and got approval from David. I don't really think David knew what I was doing there, and I think he barely even saw me when I was shooting stuff. So, when I mean, in my movie, Bill and Turner are kind of my, nemesis in a way, but it's all like, it's all just kind of a bit of a joke, and we're actually close in real life. But I don't think David really understood what was happening until I finished the movie and showed it to a few people, and he ended up really liking it, and putting it on the DVD for his performance that he released. And
oh, that's so cool.
yeah, and then we kind of like formed a relationship after that, and I did a bunch of video work for David just for little projects that he had here and there. And, we just we touch base every now and then and, just kind of do events together and stuff. So yeah, I did not get personally invited by David to begin with, but it ended up starting a relationship.
That's great. Doesn't Kaveh have a really funny? Well, Kaveh's got a funny story for every celebrity encounter, but I'm sure there's one where he kept on trying to get David's attention, and he gave him a VHS, and then David was like, "I'm living in Paris. I can't support NTSC." So then he gave him a PAL, and he's like, "I'm in New York. I can't support PAL." And then he tries to give him a DVD. And he's like, "I haven't got a DVD drive on my laptop." And Kaveh's just keep on trying to come back to him with different formats of tape every time to get his attention. I think he had his own Kaveh version of Stop Making Sense or something in his head.
Yeah, Kaveh's a tragic figure in that way.
We just screened his Getting Stoned with Matt Healy from the 1975.
Oh yeah,
we screened that, and it was really funny. I was like, we had 10%, show about the show heads, and the rest were just teenagers wanting to watch for 1975. And I was like, this is gonna be really interesting just to watch them have this long, deep meta conversation about art and creativity, but they seem to dig it.
Yeah, that series is funny. He asked me to do it a while ago, but then I kind of dropped the ball, and then COVID happened, and it never picked back up.
Alex Ross Perry's one is my favorite because Alex is just not.
Oh yeah,
I don't think Alex gets stoned. I think it's just Kaveh, and then he's just really just very Alex about it. Like, what did you want? What did you want to get out of this interview, Kaveh? Just let me know so we can please go somewhere with it. And Kaveh is just doing bong hits and hasn't really got much of a, an agenda or a idea of where it's going. But it made for a really good awkward.
Yeah, totally.
And I love, were you shooting with that? I think we had the Sony PC-120. Was that your camera on that, David Byrne?
Oh yeah, it's like the DCR
Pocket
PC9.
Yes.
That is.
I love that era of cameras. That was incredible.
Yeah, it's the best. It's got a great zoom. It's you can treat it like shit, and it's got a nice night vision. So I'm still shooting on that now. I mean, that's the camera that I carry around every day now. Still,
I fucking love it. Anytime when I was filming my student stuff, and it was like, "Can we film here?" Wait, no. And it's like, I'm gonna come back round in half an hour, and it's gonna be in my pocket, and no one's gonna know. So yeah, that was great. I think Chris Cunningham used that. So that was kind of like,
oh really?
When you find out who your guitar heroes are, and you try and buy the same guitar, it was like that with my camcorder, and then you're kind of like, these don't look like Aphex Twin music videos. What's going on? But it was still fun, and I love the night vision's incredible. All the green was so good.
Yeah, totally.
This episode is brought to you by Mubi. Mubi is a creative streaming platform dedicated to bringing you the best in cinema. I've been a Mubi subscriber for years, and I love doing this. I'm going to dig in to the Mubi UK platform and pick you out 3 fantastic movies to watch. Here we go. Shiver Baby from our buddies Emma Seligman and the great Rachel Sennett. This is the most stressful movie about a family gathering ever. It's so masterfully made and just gets tighter and more stressful as you watch. What a debut. That's my number 1. Once Upon a Time in America by the great Sergio Leone. Classic gangster movie with De Niro and James Woods. So I've seen this years ago. It's finally been restored to its full glorious 229 minutes, so that's 10 minutes shy of 4 hours. I've been meaning to see this on the big screen. Me and Ali from the team keep making plans to go see it, and then one of us doesn't have 4 hours free on the day to catch the movie. So I think I'll do it on Mubi. Yeah, just a life-spanning crime epic. Also, I recently bought the wonderful Ennio Morricone soundtrack, which is probably my favorite Morricone. So that's highest recommendation right there. Okay, I haven't seen this, but I love all Yorgos Lanthimos' previous movies, and I'm super stoked for his new movie. They've got a short film on the channel called Nimic. It's 12 minutes. I see that's Matt Dillon in it. So yeah, I'm going to go for that. I love short films. Let's do that one as our third one. And that's good because I just recommended you a 4-hour movie. So I'm going easy on you with a 12-minute movie. And here's the good bit. You can watch all these movies and more for free. Just go to mubi.com/deeper into movies for 30 days of great movies for free. That's mubi.com/deeper into movies. In How To, on your introductions and your narration, you're talking about what's going on, but the footage you are editing with is so fucking smart and funny. From like when you're talking about you wanted to be a sports fan, and you've got that footage of you say, I don't know what team to support, and you cut and you've got that slab that just says Yankees.
Yeah.
Or you're talking about how cleaning your ears to Safeway, and you cut to that footage of a guy who's like 20 stories up cleaning a window on a ledge.
Yeah.
How is the process of assembling the introduction to the footage? It's so fantastically cut together and kind of plays on what you're talking about and stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's we hit it from a few different directions. Because I look at all my footage, and then I look at all the footage that the second unit people shoot, and so do the editors. So I basically have these sequences where, I will, as I'm looking through the footage, I will put like things that would be good for certain episodes in the like in different sequences. Like, so for How to Watch the Game, anything that might be good for sports related stuff, stuff that is like specifically for each episode. So like the Yankees, the misspelled Yankees graffiti, obviously I thought it would be funny to put in there. But then I just have this kind of like larger like master sequence of every single piece of B-roll that I like at like from beginning to end, and I just like power scan through that whenever I have writer's block, and I will just like I will look for patterns within it, and then try to put different pieces of footage together that might kind of rhyme with each other, or have like some kind of weird relationship. But I mean, I have like a script that I wrote at the very beginning that I'm always referencing and trying to marry some images to that might kind of like resemble what I initially thought of, but every episode is rewritten from the ground up by the time the the edit is finished. So I don't know. It's kind of cool because we have these big set pieces within the edit, like the big interviews usually,
Mm-hmm.
and then everything in between is fair game, and you can just kind of do whatever you want. So it's up to the editors and myself to just like test out little sequences that might be funny, that kind of that create these transitional moments that get us from one idea to another. And that's very free form, and that's where a lot of the experimentation happens.
And how long does it take on average for an episode to come together?
I mean, it could be, it's hard to say because post-production starts like right as we start shooting. They just start, and like the editors start looking through all the material as I'm shooting it. So I mean, it could be anywhere from 6 to 8 months to do an episode, I guess, editing. Like we don't like, it's hard to say because the editing, writing, and shooting is all happening simultaneously. So it all has to kind of play off one another. So like basically the length of the production, which could be like 8 months to a year, is like, it's all happening within that somewhere.
And for your B-roll shooters, do you give them any briefs, or do you just let them loose on the street, picking up people watching and picking up strange and interesting moments?
So like based off the original scripts for each episode, I kind of have a scavenger hunt list with things that are relevant to each topic, like whether it's bottles of pee on the street, or people wearing sports memorabilia, or birds in trees for a bird watching episode. And then they start to harvest all that material just on the street. But then I give them complete freedom to shoot, obviously anything that they find interesting or funny. And they're usually just put into a random neighborhood in New York, and asked to walk around all day, just trying to find stuff that they think is cool, like any awnings or interesting arrangements of trash or something like that. And, but they can always fall back on the scavenger hunt list if they ever get bored or something like that. But or houses that look like faces or something like that.
And how has it been shooting people on the street? Do you ever get hassled? Do ever people realize who you are or what you're doing, or they're like, oh shit, now I've done something weird and I'm going to be on How To, like he's caught me picking my nose or something like that?
That, I don't know. I haven't really personally experienced that much because you're shooting from a certain distance, and then one of my field producers will go and do the release conversation. But if there's any, but sometimes I'll just kind of walk up and introduce myself afterwards. And, during the third season, it actually became easier to get releases in a weird way because people were familiar with the show, and I think could understand contextually, even in a vague way.
How do you pitch it to a average person who, like, I've just seen you talking on your phone or something and I want to include you? Do they ever want to know the context, or are they kind of thinking, are you trying to take the piss out of me on my phone call, or is it?
I think so there's if there's footage of, it's hard to say. It's because you never really know fully how everything's going to be used. But I think people, when they hear it's for How To, I think they understand that there's there's kind of an absurdity to it, and the joke will most likely be on me or the viewer, ultimately the way that it's crafted within the story. And I don't know. I mean, usually it's something for like if someone is watching a bird, it's just like, oh, I'm making an episode about bird watching, or if people are like, looking up into the sky, you could say the same thing. But yeah, it's hard to generalize, but like I have no problem saying exactly what I think it's going to be for in the moment, because it's usually pretty innocuous, and I think remains that way.
And so every episode poses a question or a task. I was wondering, how do you land on your specific topics for each episode? And also, how long does it take for you to punch it up to think, we can fully build an episode around this topic? Because sometimes they're as small as, how to dispose of batteries and things like that. I was wondering how you...
Right. Yeah, I guess at the beginning of each season, I have all the titles written, and we just kind of... And my selection process is just based off of like what doesn't have an easy answer, and what can we pry open, and is there kind of a galaxy within it of misinterpretations or different ways to get it wrong, and what seems like a genuinely impossible problem to solve. That I think that's what initially inspires me, and then we just kind of like just work on the episode from there. It's like, each episode is a little different, but I always do enter this crisis mode, midway through each episode, where I don't have a central character. I don't have an event that I'm excited about. I don't know like how to save each episode, and I turn into an emotional wreck, and then miraculously the universe just like delivers this stuff a lot of the time, and it just by like the process of saying yes to everything, and having the resources to travel to Arizona, to travel to Burning Man or whatever, like that ends up like creating the show somehow, even though it all feels very disparate in the moment when you're shooting it. But then like I think I also have the luxury of being able to inject it with the memoir material, which acts as like a nice adhesive to everything that may not have like made as much sense separately before.
I was every week when I tune in, I'm always excited to see what the how-to is. But my God, the public bathroom, I was so excited. I was like, finally. Yeah. It seems such a John Wilson topic, but it paid off so well. It's such a... Also, sadly, my go-to favorite bathroom in central London they've renovated the store and it's gone now. That was my secret go-to spot. So I was like, this is very poignant for me right now.
Yeah, I'm surprised it took us 3 seasons to make the episode about bathrooms. But yeah, I didn't want to put my personal favorite bathrooms to go to in the episode.
No, this is what I'm not saying. Yeah, I'd rarely revealed to. I think like 2 friends knew where my favorite bathroom was. So you don't want to hot up the spot. You don't. You don't want to commercialize your toilet and get it into the mainstream conscious.
Yeah.
And the other episode I briefly want to talk about, which Scaffolding, which has haunted me and changed my perspective of every city I go to ever since. I think Iron Pack said this as well, that it's just, you can't look at the city the same way again.
Yeah.
After realizing that it's just, everything's just in some form of constant decay or eroding. And I just get even more, I'm already an anxious person, but you just get even more spooked walking under those.
Yeah. Is there a lot of scaffolding in London? I've never been there.
Everywhere.
Oh,
everywhere.
Really?
Exactly like your episode on New York. It's just...
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because I one thing I did not get to touch on in the episode is that, like, I mean, there's a lot of scaffolding in New York because of facade inspection, but other cities don't have that problem as much because, like, they use drones to inspect the facades of
Mhm.
buildings and, take kind of a map of what's loose, with drones. But there are very strict drone laws in New York City, so they have to do it like physically with a bunch of scaffolding, which happens every 10 or 15 years, for each big building. And I wasn't sure what the drone laws were like in England.
We just seem to be having, well, all the cool independent restaurants and stores are getting wiped out every day. And the other weird thing that keeps on happening is we get these little mini apartment blocks built, and they always have a Tesco underneath them. There seems to be some sort of evil corporation going on between the supermarkets and the apartment blocks, that they always build a little convenience, a little mini supermarket underneath, which is popping up everywhere. But yeah, scaffolding everywhere. And also I've started wondering, when you see the giant skyscrapers and they have fabric wrapped around them, I have no idea how they get the fabric wrapped around the entire building like that when it's like 30 floors. I don't know. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
There's that weird kind of mesh material they wrap around the entire building.
I know, it's like
and I just spent way too long trying to work out how this is done.
It seems like a Christo sculpture, or
yes, it's like, do they just like drop it from a helicopter or something? I don't know. I haven't got a logical explanation as to how it's working out.
The time lapse, or I wonder if there's some kind of trade magazine where we could watch it from the beginning and get
or just kind of go, is there a foreman in this building? I've got questions. Like, like, how do you wrap stuff around the building? And wow, the Hoover Convention, what a beautiful thing that is.
I love that so much.
It was so wholesome. It was really pure, and
those guys were so sweet. And I don't know. Yeah, the vacuums were just so beautiful, and I'm just so glad that they were that they let me film there, because the massive Hoover vacuum that they had was just one of the most beautiful objects I've ever.
Was that an official Hoover, or was that custom?
That was official. That was like a vintage prop for some convention that Hoover was having, that they that one of them bought or acquired somehow and traveled with it. And I'm just it's so funny and cool that they just brought that in a minivan, just for this like small group of
I love it. Everyone's flexing
guys
and bringing out the big guns in their Hoover collections and stuff. It was so cool, and
it works. The big one works. It actually sucks up stuff, which is like even more impressive.
And I love the teenage kid. He was so great.
Yeah, he was there with his mom.
That was so cool. That gives me hope for the future in the age of TikTok and everyone just, being glued to their phones all day. His kid's just into vacuum cleaners. It
seems like, just despite how like he's perceived in school because of it, he's still very much into it, and he has so many vacuums at home. And it was just, I don't know how you become obsessed with something like that at such a young age, but he's like, maybe he's very mechanically minded, and he just likes to tinker with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because he didn't kind of seem shy or kind of closet about it. He was like, I just think it's fucking cool. I'm really into it.
Yeah.
Which was great. And the merch was sick. Those t-shirts that everyone had. I was like,
I know, I got a few of them.
Oh, I was so jealous. I was like, A24 hasn't got shit on the Hoover Convention. These guys' merch is just
exactly
incredible. And that guy's shirt, what does he like? Bring back asbestos?
I know, yeah. We need to press a line of those.
You need to, the John Wilson Hoover collab needs to happen. I would love that.
Yeah, I don't know what the legality of any merch from the show would be. I would love to just make some shirts of anything.
Yeah, that was so good. And this is a perfect segue to Carpet Cowboys.
Oh sure. Oh yeah, yeah.
Seamless transition. When did you see the documentary, and what made you want to come on board and EP this?
I feel like I saw the documentary a little over a year ago. It was a rough cut. A friend invited me to a screening at Union Docks in Williamsburg, and they just said it was a documentary about the carpet industry, and you know, I was excited about it kind of immediately, and I go there and watch it, and it just has such great characters and these like really funny kind of surreal moments within it. And I love when documentarians like Noah and Emily, like when they I love when documentarians just like follow a story as it's actively happening and not telling a story that's already been told in a way. So yeah, it just had a lot of promise, especially for first time feature filmmakers. It felt kind of very mature, and but it needed a bit of editing work. I think there was just like, I could tell that everything was there that they needed, but it just needed some reordering and some trimming. So I kind of just called them up and told them that I would sit down with them in the edit, just, for free, just no credit involved. And just workshop the edit, because like puzzling stuff like that is one of my favorite things to do. If you just know that it's all there, but you just have to change around a few things. And then they asked me to come on as EP, and I said, yeah. And then, they finished it. It came out really good.
Yeah, instantly when I got sent it, I was like, this is going to be good because it's rooted in such a small, specific thing that it's always a great, and it's going to expand from there. But similar to when I was pitched to go see the doc on Helvetica, and I was like, I'm going to watch a doc about a font.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's actually going to be fucking great. Anyone who's gone that deep into something so specific, I think it's going to be really interesting. And then it just opens up a whole, similar to your work, it just opens up from a small subject to something you've never considered or given the time of day to see how it's come about. And then, like, of course, the carpet world is $1 billion industry.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it's kind of like the guy says it in the doc. What's that amazing line where he's like, carpet is the ground and the dirt that all art is built on, or something.
Yeah, and all, yeah, that's a great line. And then, like, about that other line about how the money's on the ground or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what's so cool about something as specific as carpets here, where it's like the more specific you are with the subject matter, and kind of niche, I think that the kind of more illuminating, like, it can be for like larger societal or economic things. And because if you start small, it's really cool the farther you zoom out from there. But if you start too big, it's kind of hard to kind of zoom out much farther. So I really like starting on something as small as this.
I love the father and son carpet store with even just their layout, their layouts and their displays, where they kind of pull the fabric down and he's just like got a little patch and he's like, check out this. It's my favorite.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Yeah. And yeah.
It's kind of beautiful because I see a lot of those kind of places in your shows, like the Hoover repair guy and things like that. It's kind of those great kind of mom and pop shops where they just do one specific thing. They do one service and they just do it really well.
Yeah.
Seems to be really kind of like the guys at Nico Celebrates and stuff. But like,
sure.
Just have those small stores that just do something really well.
Yeah, it was funny. I was like shooting the vacuum guys, um, like while I was like kind of working on the kind of like when I first started working on the carpet thing. So it was like very much like,
Perfect. Yeah.
perfect union there.
So this is going to be the last series of How To. Is that right?
Yeah. This is the final season, but I have ideas for a slightly just kind of mutated version of everything. But yeah, in this version of it, yeah.
What made you want to call it quits on the season?
Um, well, kind of after every season, HBO would kind of ask me if I wanted to be the last, and I would be like, no, no. But then this time I was like, I gave it a lot more thought. And I kind of decided to because I really wanted to throw a few things into this season that I felt kind of um ambitious and almost like we would hit kind of a thematic vanishing point with a couple of things. And yeah, I never wanted the material to feel stale, or I never wanted it to feel like I was just like kind of covering the same kind of points of anxiety in my life, like whether it's like success or having a family, or like honesty, or like I feel like I mine pretty deep into my own personal anxieties, like for the show, and I just like I wanted to make sure that it wasn't, just like I wasn't repeating myself ever. And yeah, so I just wanted to throw everything at the wall for this last season and just kind of swing for the fences. And I don't know, have you seen the last 2 episodes yet?
The sports one was the last one I caught.
Yeah, I think
how many am I missing?
Well, there's 2 left.
Oh wow.
And yeah, I think by the finale, after you watch the finale, you I think you may understand why, and you may not be asking for more after that.
Okay. I kind of like it when it's just done. I know less is more is what I'm saying. I kind of
I mean, like, the best thing
Sopranos knew when to end and ended on the most brilliant note you can go out on, and Succession did really well. I kind of get stressed out when it's like you got to get into this, and it's like 10 fucking series. How they keeping the juice going for this long? I kind of think.
Yeah, you don't want to make like like The Walking Dead,
No. Oh yeah. There was one episode on that, I think around season 2, and I was just like, fuck this shit, I'm done. my girlfriend wants to see everything out to the end, and I'm just like, I have a kind of a 3 episode rule that if I've given you the length of a 90-minute movie after that, I think we can. We know. I know personally to call it quits. Life is too short, and I'm already
sure
got too many beautiful movies. And
well, thanks for sticking with this for more than 3 episodes.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. Your show's incredible. It's been
thanks, man.
Such a joy. Boom. That was me and John Wilson. That was a good chat. I had fun. Okay, that's it from me. Thank you for listening. Thank you to Joshua Eustace, aka Telephone Tel Aviv, for our beautiful music. Okay, and public service announcement. If you enjoy the pod, please give us a like and a subscribe. If you got the time, give us a quick favorable review. My pod people keep on telling me that the more likes and subscribes we get, the bigger the pod will get, the better guests we will get, and it all helps us boost us and fight through that bullshit algorithm and things like that. But please do. We always want to keep the pod free. We always want all the episodes available. And the bigger and more successful and evil we get, the better that will be for everyone. Okay, that's it. Thanks for listening, and we will speak soon.